good friend Dave Lapham. He's the Bengals radio network analyst. He's been doing it for over 3 decades and was there on the call last night, as the Bengals bow out in dramatic fashion. How would you sum up what you saw last night, Dave?
Well, first, Dan, I want to compliment you on your man cave. It is the best I've ever seen. There's no question about it.
Thank you, Dave.
But what I saw was a team that lost too many situational football categories. They were outperformed on third down. They were outperformed in the red zone. They lost a turnover battle by 1. These are things that you just can't have happen. And then, interestingly enough, I mean, it was ironic almost. The thing that cost them the football game ultimately was something that they've done oh so well all season long. They're the second fewest penalized team in the National Football League all season long in terms of yards. Second fewest penalty yards in the entire league, tied for 4th in terms of number of penalties assessed. They have not self-destructed by penalty. Well, in the biggest game of the year, they're self-destructed by penalty when Joseph Asai lost track of where he was on the football field, and he's very aware. I mean, he's a smart guy, very aware player. It just happens, and he pushes Mahomes and gets called for a critical penalty to put him in field goal range. It goes from a 60-yard field goal to a 45-yard field goal to win the game at the gun, and so it's ironic that it all unfolded that way. But just about every situational football category that you have to at least break even, win some of them across the board. Kansas City Chiefs took all of them. So it was amazing to me the Bengals were in the game to the extent they were.
This is how it sounded on the Bengals radio network, the call of Joseph Asai's penalty on Patrick Mahomes.
2 receivers out to each side. Mahomes with a deep drop.
Finish.
Now moving in the pocket. Running to the right and running well. He's at the 50. He's trying to run for the first down. He goes out of bounds. And the Bengals push him after he was out of bounds. Multiple flags are going to tack 15 yards onto this play. 8 seconds left in regulation. And with that penalty, the Chiefs will be in field goal range.
Man, you have to be more aware. This football team has got a lot of awareness, not on that play.
So that's Dave with the color commentating and speaking for Bengals Nation on that. And you knew what had just happened there. Not keeping your emotions inside, that's for sure.
Yeah, that when the penalty was called, and it should have been. The thing that I have is I agree with some of your poll responders. Man, the officiating sucked. Very inconsistent. And Dan, I've said all along, why do you break up officiating crews and have the all-star crews? These guys haven't worked with each other all year long.
Yep.
I mean, it's, we know that a team is not necessarily built up of, 9 MVPs in baseball or 11 MVPs in football. It's a team. Everybody has a role. Everybody has a responsibility. Everybody works together. And you work with the same guys all year long. And then when it gets to the most important games of the year, they mess it up. They muck it up. I don't get it. But at any rate, that's another, I guess, another subject, another topic. But that should have been a penalty. Joe Burrow gets smoked after he throws the football, gets hit up by his shoulder pads, does a backward somersault, gets up, looks at the official like, what? That was well after I threw the football. The inconsistency of it. And Joe, same thing. Joe scrambled for a first down out of bounds, both feet in the 5-yard white area, gets pushed, no call. Well, it was close, but you could have called it, and it wasn't that close with Mahomes. That one had to be called.
Yeah, I just never felt like the Chiefs were out of control. It just felt like they were always doing something just a little bit better than the Bengals. The Bengals were desperate, trying to keep something alive. The 4th and 6 that they went for, to start the fourth quarter, it just felt like they were always a step behind, a half a step behind with the Kansas City Chiefs. As they move to next season, Dave, what do you see with the Bengals? Any changes, any additions?
Yeah, there always are. Last year's football team that went to the Super Bowl, the makeup of this football team was much different. The highly publicized signing of 3 veteran offensive linemen in free agency, and then they go and draft one who ends up being a starter all season long in Volson. So they redid their offensive line. I mean, there are definitely going to be tweaks. Every phase had their moments of lack of execution, including special teams. Crispin unfortunately had the worst punting day of his season at the most inopportune time, and the punt return killed him, and there was an illegal block on it that wasn't called. I mean, you can go through these games, and when you comb through them, you can find all kinds of things, but flagrant things on big plays, that's tough when they're not called sometimes. But at any rate, you're going to have to improve. You're going to have to, tweak the roster here and there. The roster never comes back fully intact. There's always something that goes on in terms of free agency and the draft in the offseason. But the core of the football team, Dan, is young and talented. So, I do think the core is going to remain intact.
And there was a report that Burrow's going to get a contract and it's going to be $50 million a year.
Yeah, that would not surprise me at all. I mean, this guy is this is a special dude. There's no doubt about it. He was under duress, to put it politely. The Kansas City Chiefs, number 1 in the AFC in quarterback sacks and number 2 in the NFL. They had 55 during the course of the year, and they garnered 5 in the AFC Championship game. And man, I'll tell you, Chris Jones, Frank Clark, full-grown men. Bengals didn't have many answers for those guys. I'll tell you, they were getting it done at the line of scrimmage. And everybody talks about 3 rookies in the secondary. They played well, but the old axiom, I believe, in very much, your best pass defense is a hellacious pass rush, and they had one yesterday.
Well, congrats on the season, and we'll talk to you next year. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Dan. I really appreciate it. You're an icon. You're a legend. Always love visiting you, my man.
Thank you, buddy. That's Dave Lapham, former Bengals offensive lineman, and been doing the color commentating for Bengals radio for over 30 years.